Okay, well, good morning, everyone. Good morning. Welcome to today's press conference convened by Assemblymember Ed Chow on the very important issue of Census 2020. And to kick off today's program, because we are in the great city of Monterey Park, we have invited the mayor of Monterey Park, Mayor Peter Chan, to introduce the assembly member. Mayor Chan, please come forward.
Thank you, Henry, and welcome to the City of Monterey Park, and welcome our Assembly Person Ed Chow for choosing Monterey Park to kick off this important census counting. And it's very important that everyone is counted because the city needs an accurate count. It's not just for Monterey Park, but all the cities in the whole nation. And first of all, I want to welcome everyone to the City of Monterey Park. Enjoy the different things that we have in the city with restaurants, and after the press conference, please try lunch and so forth. And this is a press conference for the readiness for Census 2020. In Monterey Park, to have an accurate census count is very important because many of our residents receive state and federal benefits and services. And the city receives funds, housing funds, all kinds of different funds from federal and state. If we were undercount, then we receive less fundings. So it's so important to have an accurate count for the city. We don't want to get more. We don't want to get less. We want to get our fair share. That's what the census is all about. And I would like to, at this time, introduce our Assembly Person, Ed Chow, the 49th AD Assembly Person. And he was elected in November 2012 to represent the 49th AD. It includes the cities, a lot of cities, officials are here too. Alhambra, Acadia, Almani, Monterey Park, Rosemead, San Gabriel, San Marino, Temple City, and part of Montebello and South Almani. And Ed currently serves as chair of both the Assembly Committee on Privacy and Consumer Protection and the Assembly Select Committee on Emerging Technologies and Innovation. He also serves as a member of the following committees: Appropriations, Job, Economic Development, and Economy, Judiciary, and Natural Resources. So he's a very important person in Sacramento. So please welcome our Assembly Person, Ed Chow.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Mayor, for your very kind introduction. It's great to be here in the great city of Monterey Park and have the opportunity to partner up with the city for this very important press conference. I want to next welcome all of you to our press conference. This is on the 2020 census. As we know, the census is less than a year away, April 1st, 2020. And the purpose of today's press conference is to highlight the importance of the census, and also want to share with you some of the things that are to come. And so you asked the question, why is the census so important? It is important for a couple of reasons. First, representation. Two, resources. One key and important consequence of having an accurate census count is to ensure that communities like Monterey Park and their interests are properly represented during drawing of the legislative districts for federal, state, and also local government. Now, there are concerns that an undercount could possibly lead to the loss of a congressional seat here in California. In fact, there was a recent article just earlier this week that pointed out the potential of us losing at least potentially one congressional seat. And this particular area was being mentioned by that article. An undercount could also result in the loss of billions of dollars in federal funding for our state and local communities, as the mayor pointed out. It is a loss of $1,950 per person on resources if that person is not counted. And it all adds up. That's one person, about $2,000, and you can imagine, you can do the math. Now, that can make a difference in funding for infrastructure, early childhood education, our libraries, hospitals, housing assistance, just to name a few. An accurate census count is also important for local businesses when developing their marketing strategies. An accurate census count is a tool also to determine trends, for example, in social issues, and help us figure out if policies are working or not. Now, numbers do not lie, but they can be inaccurate if the inputs are not fully entered. That is why we need to have an accurate count when the census questionnaire is being rolled out. Now, the reality is that 72% of the state's population belongs to groups who have been historically undercounted during the once-in-a-decade process. The last two counts, namely the 2010 count and also 2000 count, ended up in undercounts, as many of you also realize. So on April 1st, 2020, April Fool's Day next year, let's not have our communities be fooled into inaction. And joining us today are several important community leaders who are representing efforts at the state and local community levels to ensure an accurate 2020 census count. We're going to hear from them about efforts being done to raise awareness for the 2020 census and what we can do to help them out. We also have in our audience leaders from our local communities in the 49th Assembly District. They represent a cross-section of local government and community-based organizations. So at this time, I'd like to briefly introduce them before we introduce today's speakers. We heard earlier from our mayor of Monterey Park, Mayor Peter Chen. We also have joining us Mayor of Alhambra, Adele Andretti Statler, sitting in front. We also have the Mayor of San Gabriel, Jason Pohl. Mayor Pohl, thank you. We also have President of the Almani Union High School District, David Diaz. Thank you, David. The Vice President of the Garvey Elementary School District, Ronald Trabanino. Thank you. We also have the field representative for Congresswoman Judy Chu, Enrique Robles. The press secretary for State Senator Susan Rubio, Edward Barrera. Thank you for joining us. We also have the partnership specialist of the United States Census Bureau, Helen Lim. Assistant City Manager for the City of Rosemead, Greg Sujiyuchi. Greg, thank you. And I thought I saw the City Manager for the City of Monterey Park here also, Ron Bull. I think he's right there. Thank you, Ron. We also have the Vice President of Chinese American Community Affairs Council, Jiang Quan. I think he's joining us in a little bit. Also, we have the Chinese American Federation Chairman, Edward Kai. We also have Mr. Derek Ma with the Chinese American Community Affairs Council joining us at the table. President of the Los Angeles Lodge of the Chinese American Citizens Alliance and Executive Director, OCAGLA, Rick Ng. I think I neglected to introduce the clerk of the City of Monterey Park, Vincent Chang, right up here. Executive Director of the Western Gable Valley Boys and Girls Club, J.R. Zubat.
On his way.
On his way, okay. Also, we have the President of the Monterey Park Chamber of Commerce, Dora Leon. I saw her. We also have the organizer of the Los Angeles Voice and Gable Valley Outreach for the Census, Minister Diane Eugene. Thank you. We also have the Chief Executive Officer of the South Almani Chamber of Commerce, Ken Roche. Also have the Community Affairs Manager of the Asian Youth Center, Florence Lin. Did you bring your fans club? All right. All right. We also have the board secretary of the Chinese Club of San Marino, Chen Yan-chen. I think I saw her earlier. President of the Roundtable of Chinese American Organizations, Phoebe Chen, right there. Okay. We also have representing the Greater San Gabriel Valley Lodge Chinese American Citizens Alliance, Jason Deng. Thank you all for joining us. Let us now go to our speaker. We have from the outreach and the outreach liaison officer of the California Complete Count person, Sarah Paulin, who is the regional program manager, Irving Pacheco, regional program manager. Please come on up. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much, Assembly Member Chow and Major Chan, for welcoming us, and thank you so much to all of you for being here. On behalf of the California Complete Count Office, we would appreciate your work and continue to support the effort of outreach and education, right? So the opportunity for us, so I'm Sarah Paulin, I'm Regional Program Manager for Region 8, Los Angeles County, part of Long Beach, and part of Asian Pacific Islander representative, and also Orange County. I'm glad to be here and to share a little bit about the California Complete Count. Our goal is to ensure that every Californian is counted, right? And as you know, the U.S. Census here, Helen so the goal of the U.S. Census, as you know, every 10 years, to count everyone once and only once. And in California, if you know, the second largest API, Asian American and Pacific Islander from Hawaii is us in California, right? And the uniqueness of California, and thank you for having us here in Monterey Park, is that among Asian Americans, we're so unique, we're so diverse, and we're so complex in terms of our language and culture and historical background on where we came and how we came, right? So if you look at Southeast Asian, we're majority refugee and immigrant, such as me. So I was a Cambodian refugee coming here in 1983. And one of the biggest challenges that the California State Census Office identified is immigrant and refugee as well. And the complexity of perception of mistrust of government are high, really high, at the 90% according to the UCLA study, right? So with that in mind, we're having challenge in counting everyone, in giving us the picture as the Assembly state in terms of not just the data, right? So the picture of who we are in the makeup of California, in the fabric of our diverse state, how can we count those hard-to-count population? And the state of California making sure through all of our partners, you see Sheila and Advancing Justice, they're representing the state, statewide community-based organization to connect with all of you, to reach out and educate our population about the upcoming Census 2020, and that is April 1st, 2020, right? And to really engage them, to really make it relevant to them as to the importance of not just the data, but the resource, and Mayor Chan mentioned earlier, also our political voice, right? And that's where California legislator and the governor take this seriously in terms of our Census 2020 to say that we'll invest in you. We want every California to be counted, and we're ready to go out and make sure that we share all this information with our family, friends, our community, every community, to make sure that we all count. So thank you for having me here.
My name is Ernie Pacheco, a regional program manager, and we are honored to be here. Thank you for the invitation, Senator Red Chow and staff. We were excited to hear that this was going to be a coalition of folks to address our census objectives. Just like my colleague said, Sarah Pauline and myself share Los Angeles County, which is probably the hardest county in the state of California. I want to share some words in Spanish, but I'm going to first say them in English, and not to take too much time. I just want to talk about our funding structure. So the state of California, along with the legislature and the governor's office, have put together this very efficient funding structure that's going to take place as the following. First, funding for the counties, that has already been taking place. Then to our regional community-based organizations, our statewide community-based organizations, and our sectors. Along with the counties, not to forget, is our tribal funding as well. And next is our media funding. And I say that's our plan to make sure that we get to the hard-to-count communities in the state of California. That is the objective. And the governor knows this, and he is making sure that the team and all of our collaborators work together. Lo quiero decir en español. Muchas gracias porque practiqué toda la noche. Sabíamos que esta es una colaboración de diferentes comunidades. Mi nombre es Irving. Venimos de parte del estado de California para asegurarnos que todos los californianos sean contados. El gobernador ha puesto un programa, un sistema para distribuir fondos a nuestros colaboradores a través del estado con la meta de que todos los californianos sean contados. Como ustedes saben, un census completo determine qué tanto de dinero nos regresa el gobierno federal. Le quiero dar las gracias a la asambleísta Chao, a su equipo, al alcalde, y estamos aquí a su servicio. Gracias.
Thank you very much. Next, I'd like to introduce Ann Lee, who is with 2020 Census Statewide Network Manager, Asian Americans Advancing Justice, Los Angeles. Please, Ann.
Thank you, Assemblymember Chow and Mayor Chan for inviting us to this space to have this opportunity to talk about the census. So my name is Ann Lei. I am with Asian Americans Advancing Justice Los Angeles. I am the 2020 Statewide Census Network Manager. And we do this work because it's important. Census data is critical to our family's future and the next generation. Participating in the census and getting an accurate count means that our families and communities can thrive by directly affecting how more than $800 billion in federal funds are allocated yearly to our communities. This goes to Medicare and Medi-Cal, highway funding, Section 8 vouchers, SNAP, Head Start, special education grants, child care and development block grants, libraries and hospitals. Obviously, all very important things. So this is about determining the success of our community's future. There will be a lot of challenges for us to reach our communities. Our communities are very diverse. Many are limited English proficient and unaware of what the census is all about. There's also a lot of concern about whether the information submitted to the Census Bureau will be kept confidential. We will have a lot to overcome in terms of suspicion and anxieties. This is particularly important because the Census Bureau had conducted a survey that found that among all racial categories, Asian Americans are actually least likely to participate in the census. That's at 55%. So imagine that. If only 55% of our communities participate in the census, think about the loss that our communities will suffer as a result of that. So what we're going to do about that is we're going to be working with organizations and stakeholders all across the state to make sure that Asian Americans, Native Hawaiians, and Pacific Islanders are counted. We'll be providing trainings to trusted messengers in the community so that they'll have all the tools that they need to conduct outreach to community members who will be hard to count. We'll also be producing materials in language, translating them to Asian and Pacific Islander languages to be disseminated across the state. The best way to ensure an accurate count is for all of us, community leaders, community members, media, to start talking about all the ways that the census benefits our community. Talk to your neighbors, your family, and your friends. We all have a responsibility to our community, so please join us and make sure that we all count.
Thank you very much, Anne. Next, I'd like to introduce Esperanza Guevara, who is the Census Campaign Manager for Coalition for Humane Immigrant Rights, or CHIRLA. Esperanza, please come on up.
Thank you, Assemblymember Ed Chow, for making the census a priority for your district and for inviting CHIRLA to be part of your efforts. Many of our communities, including neighborhoods in places like Assembly District 49, have long been undercounted in the census. And through CHIRLA's campaign, Contamos Contigo, or in English, we are counting on you, and also as a trusted source of information for our communities since 1986. CHIRLA is working to educate hard-to-count communities throughout California. We are immigrants, we are refugees, people of limited English fluency, but most importantly, we are contributors to everything that this country is. About half of California workers are immigrants or children of immigrants, and California has the largest percentage of immigrant residents of any state. Undercounting these populations would result in serious consequences, like Emily already mentioned. Every community deserves health services. Every community deserves educational programming for children. Every community deserves safe neighborhoods, parks, and roads. Many people in our neighborhoods qualify for programs like Medicaid, SNAP, and Head Start, but if they aren't counted, local governments will not receive the funding to properly serve them. Contamos Contigo is using its extensive community education network to hold community presentations, train grassroots leaders like the one seated here today, host workshops at schools, library branches, and resource fairs. We will use our phone banking and canvassing resources to do deep outreach throughout the state. In total, our campaign aims to educate more than 2.7 million people about the census. And we have set specific outreach goals for each of CHIRLA's departments, including legal services, membership, and organizing. People should know that when it comes to the census, privacy is sacred. Census information can't be disclosed for 72 years, and it can't be used against someone in court or by another federal agency. At a time when the President of the United States makes his hatred of immigrants a matter of policy, targeting us for persecution, hatred, and exclusion, participating in the census has become for us an act of resistance. So regardless of this administration's attempts to ensure that we are not, we will be counted in the census. And I want to also make sure that everyone in the room today make that commitment to fill out the census form, or to tell your friend or your family member to fill out the census form. Our team today brought these postcards to commit to completing the census form. We really encourage everyone here in this room, yes, even the media, to fill one out and make a commitment to complete the census form after the program is over. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Esperanza. Both Esperanza and Anne mentioned the diversity in our region here. In fact, the district that I represent, 8049, is one of the most diverse districts in the country, in fact. So I want to urge all of you to continue to really get the word out there so that everybody knows about it. Now, next, I'd like to invite Mr. Derek Ma, who represents the Chinese American Community Affairs Council, to come on up to say a few words, please. Derek?
Thank you, Assemblyman Ed Chow. Good morning, everyone. Good morning. On behalf of the Chinese community, I want to thank you, Ed Chow, for holding this press conference. And it's very meaningful and very important to our Chinese community. 各位男女嘉宾，首先我在这里感谢我们Ed Chow 在这里 organize 这个人口调查这个记者这个位，因为是很重要。美国是一个非常公平社会，它有很多 benefit 是给我们华裔社区，但是我们很多这个 new immigrant 这个新移民来到美国，他们很害怕来做这个资料，所以我在这里呼吁大家， 就争取你的权益，争取你的 benefit， 一定要配合来把这个人口调查这个资料填好，这样的话你才能够争取到你的 benefit。我再次感谢大家出席，thank you。
Thank you very much, Derek. At this time, I'd like to ask all the speakers or presenters to come on up so that we could answer questions. If the audience has any questions, we could try to help answer
More
them.
about either the campaign or more about the census itself, you can go to our website, chibla.org, or also call our hotline at 888-6-CHIBLA.
Wait, it's this postcard, right? It's in this card?
And it's in the postcards here. Yes.
Yeah, and for the state of California, please visit www.census.gov, right?
You're good? Yes?
Yeah, come on up.
People don't.
For the phone number,
Phone number.
you may reach 916-210-9357.
We have a lot of resources available. You can find them on censuscounts.org.
Other questions? All right.
Derek mentioned fears from community members from different immigrant communities about being counted. How do you kind of allay those fears in the 2 minutes you get to talk to someone?
Let me take the first stab at it. I think one of the things that we've been doing is for the census group or organizations to work with community groups who are familiar with the district and the folks in the district. So there's a little bit of, there's a familiarity between, the census taker and the community. So I think, the fear factor is definitely one of the things that we need to tackle. So, yeah, just want to add anything more?
If I may, so the state of California Complete Count looked into strategic approach in terms of using trusted messenger. The reason the outreach and education being deployed is to make sure that each community, you know your own community, you know your neighbor, you know your family and people. So we hope that by reaching out to those trusted messenger, the fear of complete count, the fear of completing the form will reduce.
So there's a story that I know that the Census Bureau was sharing during 2010 about how there was a president who had to be temporarily relocated away from the White House for some renovations. So Secret Service actually asked the Census Bureau if they can share information about the people that live in a certain community that they were thinking of temporarily placing the president. And even then, the Census Bureau said no, because they're not allowed to share that information, and the penalties and fines are quite severe. So that's, in addition to using trusted messengers as people who can help deliver those messages to community members, we have examples that can show what happens when people try to access information from the Census Bureau.
Can you also maybe share who are some of the trusted messengers or how are they selected and so on and so forth?
Sure, yes. On the state level, just like my colleague shared, there was an RFP process where we analyzed and went through this process to make sure that our trusted messengers met certain criteria, that they knew their communities and they knew the language and they knew the certain cultural factors to make sure that they have that connection and have that trust. For example, Churla is one of them, Maleo, California Community Foundation.
About the census in 2 minutes. We were contracted as trusted messengers because we have been working in these communities, specifically for Churla, since 1986. We're going to be with our communities even after the census campaign is over, and we're going to be behind them every step of the way.
Yes, go ahead.
Just to put a finer point on it, the citizenship question seems to be poised to be on the census, and so can that information be shared with ICE specifically?
No.
That information is not supposed to be shared with ICE. There are also other concerns. So I know that that a lot of attention is being placed on people who are undocumented and the fears that the citizenship question will have on folks who are undocumented, but obviously that's going to have an impact on people who have green card status, because there are many reasons why people might feel might sense the fear of being targeted because they're immigrants. And then there are also other issues of, we have a lot of problems with overcrowded housing, and so we have multiple families living in one home, and so I think we know that there are going to be challenges in making sure that people are accurate in terms of how many people they're reporting is living in the household. So there are a lot of those different challenges that we have to face, but we do need to emphasize with people that this information will not be shared and it will be confidential.
In order to encourage the community participation, is it too late to engage more volunteers so that we can emphasize about benefit of accurate count?
No, it's not too late. Like Sheila, so organization like Advancing Justice, who know a lot more grassroots organization out there and work with them. Those are the trusted messenger. Those are people that they connect to make sure that they get the message across out to every community. And as diverse as we are, we'll encourage the language appropriate and cultural appropriate message to make sure that it's relevant to all in the community.
Hey, hello everybody. I'm Diane Ujia with LA Voice. You are trusted messengers, and so we're inviting you Wednesday, May 29th, 8:30 a.m.
Come on over here, man.
We're inviting you May 29th, 8:30 a.m. to the Baldwin Hills Arts and Rec Center. This is where you'll get to network, work with your fellow SGV brothers and sisters. This is where community-based organizations can get real-time information about the city and the county, immigration question, the citizenship question. We'll have a 40-minute panel, and then you'll be able to talk with your local peers about how to leverage resources in the San Gabriel Valley. So there are flyers over there. We want to thank Assemblymember Chow and the panelists too for letting us really get to those communities that are hardest to count. I don't want to be on but I do want to encourage you to come, because we really need to give you the right information so that you can respond to questions. You're on the ground. We need you. You are the trusted messengers. Like, embrace that. Look around and embrace the fact that you are the ones reaching the people that Anne talked about, that our other brothers and sisters have talked about. May 29th, Baldwin Park Arts and Rec Center, 8:30 in the morning. Flyers are over there. Thank you to Henry, thank you to Daisy, thank you to Assemblymember Chow. And we count. Can we get an amen that we count? We believe that we count, right?
Have a question. You said, when will the actual count begins? Is there a time from what time to what time? And is there any other than written answers by the messengers? Is there internet reporting or any other means of reporting?
So the U.S. Census is in the house, right? One of the challenge for this time around is that the U.S. Census will be completing online. It's the first internet completion of the census. So in terms of time frame, Helen, would you like to comment on it?
My name is Helen Lin.
Yes, come on up. US Census.
Yeah. All right, U.S. Census. Okay. Good morning. My name is Helen Lim. I'm a partnership specialist from the U.S. Census Bureau. Yes, we are. We are trusted messengers. And not only that, U.S. Census is available here. We hired many of our partnership specialists to work with you in your community, in your school, in your businesses. So please utilize, partnership specialists. We do have different languages. I speak Korean. We have a partnership specialist who speaks Chinese, Spanish, many different languages. So we are here to help you to work together, collaborate, train you, educate you, encourage you, or push you to make sure that we are counted. Because as many of our representatives spoke, each person not counted is about $2,000 per year for to the California state. So that means one person not completed, that's 20,000 per 10 years. Because U.S. Census, the senior census happens only 10 years, right? So 10 years, we are losing 20,000 per person. And I heard that some of the statistics said over 50% will not be participating. That is huge number. That is maybe no new road, no new school, no preschool, no health care. It is really, we are here to work together to shape our future. Okay, so we are all need to be trusted messenger with the city, with the state, with the county, with the federal government, and all the organizations. I heard business commerce is here, school board is here, the city government is here. This is what needs to be done. We need to be participate, active, and be counted. Okay, so the first time they can reply, as Sarah mentioned, is we do started as of March 23rd. I think the date has been moved a little bit up. So as of March 12th, we are able to respond in the internet. It's first year in history that we are using internet. Anybody who has a smartphone, any internet access, that you'll be able to complete it on your phone, on your laptop, tablet, and some of the cities are working to have a census kiosk, which you'll be there and then completing the form there. So we are all here. Why we are here? Because we want to be counted. All of us wanted to be counted because we are able to shape our future. Yours and our next generation to follow. Okay? So
I'm sorry, if I may iterate that. So in March, to answer your question, so look out for March of 2020, you'll receive a postcard from the U.S. Census letting you know the code and letting you know how you can go in or online to complete your census form.
Not only with the online, you can use still phone, you can call in, or you can use also paper and pencil form to send it in. So there are three options. Okay, you can use the internet, you can use the paper and pencil, you can use the phone, and we do provide different languages. So if someone speaks better, like my case, I speak better Korean than English, so I can call and then choose the option to speak Korean, and someone will be on the other line will answer questions in Korean, or you can use on the internet language and then select and choose whatever so you can answer, because once again we do recognize the diversity, and as you see it in here. Okay, and we wanted to make sure that we are providing the services they need. So my name, I brought some folders for U.S. Census folders. So you pick it up. If you have any question, please give me a call. I'm here to help you, here to assist you, here to serve you, so we can be counted. Everybody, as Sarah mentioned, everybody count once. Okay, count everybody once, only once, and in the right place. And we all need and your participation. Thank you.
What is your last name?
My last name is Lim, L-I-M, as a Mary. So first name is Helen, last name is Lim.
What is the average amount of time it takes to complete the survey, for example?
15 minutes, less than 15 minutes, 15 minutes. And they will bring the new road to your neighborhood. They will bring the new school to your neighborhood. I cannot put an emphasis. We don't want to lose our, House of Representatives seat. As Assemblyman said, yes, we are in verge of losing one. If people are not participating, so we need to be counted. That is our power. That's our representation in Washington. Okay, and as a money budget, we need that money, and it depends on head count. Head count, as simple as that. We are not counting citizenship, we are not counting residency, we are counting the population. And it is constitutional, it's confidential, you don't have to worry, as a fine, as a 5-year imprisonment, 250,000 or both. Okay, we do not share information with any of the government agency. Okay, no ICE, no FBI, no CIA, no Homeland Security, make sure let's be counted and bring the money and power back to California.
legislature is doing to support the hard-to-reach communities?
Yeah, we in fact we are allocating approximately about $150 million this year just to help conduct the survey. So as been mentioned, I think we're working very closely with many of the local organizations and folks to make sure that the message is getting out there. And we want to dispel any fear factor that might be. And so we're doing everything we can. I think this is historic as far as the allocation of funding is concerned. So never in the past that we have allocated so much funding. Because as I mentioned before, the last two counts ended up in undercount. One of the reasons being that we didn't have enough resources to work with partners out there, community folks out there. So this is going to be a great improvement over the last two census. So, thanks for your question. Did you want to add anything more to it?
No.
Go ahead.
Just say, during the summer, the California Complete Count campaign, we're going to be hosting these implementation workshops. We're going to be assessing all of our partners. And here for the San Gabriel Valley, the date will be 9/11 at the El Monte Community Center. So it's open to the public in the first part of the day, and then for our contract recipients. And we're going to really collaborate to make sure that our assessment of readiness is ready to go.
Other questions? Remaining questions? Go ahead.
Sorry to ask another question. So let me premise this by saying I'm with Taiwanese American Citizens League. We were founded 30 years ago specifically to encourage participation in the census. So a question that I'm following up on the ICE question, Justice Scalia famously talked about Korematsu versus the United States, a decision to intern Japanese American citizens. They found all their information from the census. And he said, this was a travesty, this was a terrible decision, but you better believe it's going to happen again. I don't know how to reply to this when people bring this up. What should I say?
So it clearly has not been perfect. That information was used to intern Japanese Americans. And the threat of the impact of the census on the Muslim community was very real in the year 2000, or no, I'm sorry, 2010. So, but the Census Bureau has had to fine-tune and ensure more protections for communities as those things have happened. So what happened to the Japanese American community and the threat of what was going to happen to the Muslim American community, there have been a lot of advocates that have stepped up to make sure that those things won't happen again.
I do also want to emphasize, as you can see here, we are all working as a part of a larger coalition, and we're monitoring what happens with the census process, again, every step of the way. So if we need to mobilize, we are a large network, and we will act to protect the best interests of our community members. But in addition to that, Title 13 of the U.S. Code does require that the data that we provide to the Census Bureau remain confidential. And again, that it cannot be used against someone in a court of law or by any other federal agency. So that is U.S. law.
Well, thank you for your question. In fact, as chair of the Privacy Committee in the legislature, that is one of the questions that I keep raising every single time I attend a hearing on the census. How do we keep the privacy of the individuals when it comes to retention of the data? So I keep asking the question, and the same answer keeps coming back, and they assured us that this is going to be private and confidential. So, yeah, great question. So any other questions? Please, go ahead, Jeff.
How are you guaranteeing that homeless individuals are counted, and how do you count people in transit who may be traveling for an extended period?
Addressed throughout the state. It is being addressed by our leadership in our California Complete Count campaign. More details to come about that. As some of them were mentioned, that the governor and the legislature have really committed to a funding structure that we want to make sure that we get, especially the homeless sector.
Anything else to add? Other questions? Go ahead.
This is actually a question that's following up from what Chris had said. Is it the consensus that the Supreme Court is going to actually rule in favor of the Department of Commerce, that the citizen question stays? What is your opinion of what the justice will rule on that? What would be their arguments?
Well, I don't want to speculate on how the Supreme Court is going to rule or say. All I can say is, we're going to wait for them to decide sometime in June. So I can't predict what they're going to say and what arguments they're going to raise, unless you guys want to tackle that one.
We're not to comment on
you. Okay.
I just want to say that we're not going to second guess the decision of the Supreme Court, and that regardless of whether or not the citizenship question is added, we are going to participate in the census.
Is there any deadline for this count?
What was the question again?
The period.
Time period starting April 1st and then when
So Helen, yeah.
It's May to June. We are continuing to send out the numerators, and then that's what also you can do. You can apply a job for the U.S. Census numerator. We wanted to hire people from the neighborhood, so they know their neighborhood, they are trusted. So, but we will send out the numerators till June, and so we first wanted people to self-respond, of course, through the online or the form, the mail system, or telephone. But if people is not responding, we are sending out the numerators, and they're going to continue to do that by end of the June.
Thank you.
Ellen, do you want to join us here for questions also? Are there any further questions? We'll be happy to field them either now or after we finish. Seeing none, I'd like to invite the presenters to join me for a photo. And I just noticed that Shirley, President of Chinese American Federation, also joined us. So I'd like to ask her to join us here for a photo op as well. So if we can all move to the center.
One-on-one.